I have endured the loss of 3 babies, an unbearable grief made infinitely worse by my sister-in-law, Vanessa. She not only stole the names I had lovingly chosen for my lost children and gave them to her own, but she then escalated her cruelty by tampering with my prenatal vitamins, directly causing my 4th miscarriage. For years, my life was a cruel cycle of infertility, but not the kind that offers a clear, final answer. Mine was the infertility of false hope. I could conceive, but I could not carry to term. I suffered 3 devastating miscarriages, each one occurring during the fragile 2nd trimester. Through it all, almost everyone in our circle was incredibly supportive, a warm blanket of sympathy that made Vanessa's betrayal all the more chilling. The first time I sobbed on her lap, she stroked my hair and promised to always be my rock. She swore to me that when her baby, my niece, was born, I would be the godmother, a role I cherished in my heart. I was so naive. I began to consider her one of my dearest and most trusted friends. Fast forward just 2 weeks to her baby shower, an event that would become the first chapter in my nightmare. It was there she revealed her chosen name for her baby girl. As soon as the word left her lips, a wave of nausea and bile rose in my throat. It was Leia, the exact same name I had chosen for my first unborn daughter. When I confronted her later, away from the crowd, her mask of sympathy dropped. All she replied was, "Well, it's not like you were going to use it," followed by a sound that I can only describe as a shriek, like a pig on fire. Her words were not just daggers. They were poisoned, twisting in the wound. When my husband, Michael, came over to see what was wrong, I explained the situation, but instead of sharing my outrage, he laughed nervously. Men can be remarkably naive in these matters, so I held my tongue until we were in the privacy of our car, driving home, to re-explain the profound disrespect and cruelty of her actions. Michael was the absolute love of my life, but he was also tragically passive, a trait forged in the fires of his childhood as the family's designated scapegoat. He was the kind of person who would get robbed on the street and then apologize to the mugger for not having more money to give. "That's just how she is, honey," he sighed, the familiar excuse falling flat. Defeated, I convinced myself that perhaps it was a blessing, that at least my unborn daughter's name would live on in someone else's child. I threw myself into improving my fertility, becoming a paragon of health, a dedicated Pilates princess, but it never seemed to work. A year and a half later, another precious life flickered out inside my womb. A few weeks after that loss, I was standing in a Walgreens aisle, staring blankly at shelves of baby formula, when a notification on my phone caught my eye. It was a post from Vanessa, announcing the birth of her 2nd son. The message read, "Welcome to the world, baby Ethan. Special thanks to my sister-in-law, Clara, for the name inspiration. Her loss is my gain." The text was punctuated with a pregnant woman emoji followed by a skull emoji. By the time she brazenly stole the name of my 3rd loss, Amelia, I was simply numb to the pain. She would email me pictures of the nursery she was preparing with cruel captions like, "Bet you wish this could be for your Amelia." My husband, still deep in his denial, defended her, insisting I was being overly sensitive about simple names and pictures. After 4 long years of heartbreak, I finally stopped hoping for a child of my own. By then, Vanessa was expecting her 4th child and would openly joke at family dinners about which of my dead babies' names she should steal next. The whole family would laugh. Everyone laughed. Everyone but me. That night, something inside me didn't just snap. It shattered into a million vengeful pieces. If she wanted another name from me, I would give her one she would never, ever forget. I waited until the next large family gathering before orchestrating my own breakdown, pulling Vanessa aside in supposed confidence, tears streaming down my face. I told her that I had discovered something incredible in my late mother's diary, a hidden middle name she had never shared with anyone, Serafina. I spun a tale about how it meant sacred child in an archaic language. To sell the lie, I had even created phony, aged journal pages and showed her a meticulously curated Pinterest board about honoring deceased grandparents with baby names. Vanessa swallowed the bait, hook, line, and sinker. She ran with it, proudly announcing to everyone that she was naming her daughter Serafina Rose to honor our family's secret, sacred past. My revenge plot was working perfectly, until 8 months later when the universe threw me the most unexpected curveball imaginable. I was pregnant, and for the first time ever I had made it to the 3rd trimester. I nearly collapsed in tears of pure joy. No more memorials, no more gut-wrenching questions about what was fundamentally wrong with me. My husband and I had kept the news to ourselves, not wanting to raise our hopes only to have them dashed again. That very same week, the text arrived. Vanessa was inviting us to her baby shower for Serafina. I chose a flowing garment that carefully concealed my growing belly. Michael, finally seeing the light, supported my choice to attend, and, as he put it, "Stop giving an F. Vanessa had gone all out for this shower, a spectacle grander than any of her previous ones." The entire extended family was there, alongside her legion of mommy blog readers who had been following the journey of baby Serafina for months. Vanessa was in the middle of a grand speech about her profound discovery of this treasured family name when I decided to stand up. "Actually, Vanessa, I have something to share as well," I announced, smoothing my dress over my now very obvious baby bump. The room fell into a deafening silence. Vanessa's mouth hung open mid-sentence. My mother-in-law dropped her champagne glass, which shattered on the floor. 29 weeks today," I said, lovingly stroking my belly. We wanted to be absolutely sure this time. The room erupted with joyous yells and congratulations. Vanessa's face had drained of all color, a mask of pure shock. That was when my husband, the family's gentle saint, finally stepped up and raised his hand for silence. "Vanessa, you were saying something about the name Serafina, about all that research you did." Vanessa's face went from ghostly white to a furious, blotchy red. "Yes, it means sacred child in an ancient." "That's so weird," Michael interrupted, pulling out his phone. "Because when I Google Serafina, all I get are medical websites about a new brand of constipation relief medication." I had to pinch my nose to keep from laughing out loud. The rest of the room was dead silent. I took my husband's hand, and we walked out of that party, a proud family of 3. But my triumph was short-lived. By 4 a.m, I was woken by a sharp, familiar pain in my stomach, a dreadful echo of the 3 times before. Michael and I rushed to the hospital, but I already knew the devastating truth in my soul. It was another miscarriage. It turned out that one of my nightly prenatal vitamins had been switched with something toxic to my baby. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that Vanessa was behind it. For days afterward, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Vanessa's smug, triumphant face at the baby shower. The police said they couldn't prove anything regarding the vitamins. The bottle had mysteriously vanished from our bathroom cabinet, and the hospital was unable to identify the specific substance that had caused the miscarriage. My husband had finally, completely stopped defending his sister. He just sat on our bed, holding the empty vitamin bottle we later found buried deep in our outside trash can. His hands trembled as he turned it over and over. Vanessa had been in our house just 2 days before the incident, under the guise of wanting to help organize the nursery. I started documenting everything, every text message, every cruel social media post, every barbed comment Vanessa had made over the years. My laptop became an extension of myself as I pieced together a pattern of abuse that had previously been too painful to fully acknowledge. 3 weeks after we lost our 4th baby, I discovered something that made my blood run cold. Vanessa's best friend, a woman named Diana, worked at the very pharmacy where I filled all of my prescriptions. I remembered them giggling together at family events, and how Diana would always ask probing, overly personal questions about my fertility treatments. I drove to the pharmacy during Diana's shift. She saw me coming and tried to disappear into the back room, but I cornered her near the vitamin aisle. Her face turned ashen when I brought up the prenatal vitamins. "I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, her hands shaking so badly she could barely straighten the bottles on the shelves. That same evening, Vanessa posted on her mommy blog about the struggles of dealing with toxic family members who make up false accusations. Within hours, her loyal followers had flooded my social media accounts with hateful comments. My phone buzzed incessantly with notifications calling me jealous, delusional, and an attention seeker. Michael deleted his own social media accounts after his sister's followers began harassing him as well. We sat in our living room with the curtains drawn, feeling like we were under siege. He apologized over and over for not believing me sooner, for enabling Vanessa's cruelty for so many years. The next family dinner was at Vanessa's house. We almost refused to go, but my mother-in-law called Michael in tears, begging us not to let this ridiculous misunderstanding tear the family apart. Against my better judgment, we went. Vanessa had deliberately placed baby Serafina's bassinet in the center of the dining room. Every time I looked up from my plate, I saw the name embroidered on the blanket. Vanessa spent the meal making pointed comments about people who can't handle other people's happiness. During dinner, Vanessa excused herself to go nurse the baby. Her laptop was left open on the kitchen counter, its screen still glowing. I don't know what came over me, but I found myself walking towards it, pretending to get a glass of water. Her browser was open to her email account. My heart hammered against my ribs as I saw subject lines about fertility-suppressing herbs and natural miscarriage remedies. I instantly pulled out my phone, my hands shaking uncontrollably as I snapped photo after photo of the screen. "What are you doing?" Vanessa's voice cut through the air like a knife. I spun around, the phone still clutched in my hand. She lunged for it, but I jerked back. We struggled there in the kitchen, her nails digging into my wrist as she tried to wrestle my phone away. "Give it to me," she snarled, but I held on for dear life. My husband heard the commotion and rushed in. For the first time in his life, he saw his sister's mask completely gone. Her face was a twisted snarl of pure rage, a shocking contrast to the sweet persona she usually projected. "She's trying to steal my phone," Vanessa cried instantly, fat tears welling up in her eyes. "She's gone crazy, just like I told you all. but Michael had already seen the fresh scratches on my wrist and the wild, cornered look in his sister's eyes. He stepped between us, and for the first time he did not take her side. "We're leaving," he said in a low, calm voice, taking my hand. Vanessa's tears dried up in an instant. "Fine, run away like you always do." "But everyone's going to know the truth about her." We drove home in utter silence, my wrist throbbing where she had clawed me. I showed Michael the photos I had taken. His face grew paler with each damning image. The next morning, Vanessa's mommy blog featured a long, rambling post about coping with mentally ill family members. She claimed I had physically attacked her in her own home and had been faking my pregnancies for attention all along. She even posted a picture of herself with a faint bruise on her arm, despite the fact that I had never laid a hand on her. Her followers devoured it. Comments poured in praising her strength and vilifying me. Some even started a hashtag, Justice for Vanessa. My mother-in-law called within hours. "You need to apologize," she began, not even bothering to ask for my side of the story. "This has gone too far. Vanessa's thinking about filing a restraining order." "She poisoned my baby," I couldn't help but scream. "Don't be ridiculous," my mother-in-law scoffed. "Vanessa would never do something like that. You're clearly having some kind of breakdown. Maybe you should seek help." My husband snatched the phone from me. "Mom, you didn't see what happened." Vanessa attacked Clara, not the other way around. "Oh, please," his mother sneered. "You always take her side now." Vanessa showed me the security footage from her kitchen. It clearly shows Clara snooping on her computer. My heart sank. Of course, Vanessa had edited the footage to cut out our struggle, making me look like the aggressor. My husband argued with his mother for a few more minutes before hanging up in sheer frustration. Over the next few days, the situation escalated beyond my worst nightmares. Vanessa filed a report with Child Protective Services, claiming I was mentally unstable and should be barred from adopting children. She had somehow found out that we had started the adoption process months before our final pregnancy. The social worker who visited our home was professional but clearly influenced by the allegations. Apparently, Vanessa's army of mommy blog followers had been bombarding the adoption agency with calls and emails about my dangerous behavior. "We've received over 50 complaints," the social worker explained, leafing through her file. "While we have to investigate every claim, I want you to know that organized campaigns like this often suggest someone has an agenda." We provided character references, medical records proving my mental health was sound, and everything else we could think of, but the damage was done. Our adoption application was placed on indefinite hold pending a full investigation. I sobbed in my husband's arms that night. Vanessa hadn't just stolen my baby's names. She was now actively trying to steal any chance I had at motherhood. The next morning brought fresh agony. Vanessa had posted the edited photos of me snooping on her laptop, conveniently cropping out anything related to her research on miscarriage-inducing herbs. Her followers branded me a criminal and demanded I be prosecuted for invasion of privacy. Michael and I sat at our kitchen table, surrounded by printed emails from the adoption agency. Each one detailed another concerned citizen who had contacted them about my supposed mental illness. The wording in dozens of the messages was eerily similar, showing clear coordination. That afternoon, Diana called me. Her voice was a terrified whisper. "Meet me at the park on Elm Street. Come alone, I have to tell you something." My husband wanted to come, but I knew Diana would bolt if she saw him. I found her on a bench near the playground, nervously watching mothers push their children on the swings. "I can't do this anymore," she blurted out as soon as I sat down. "Vanessa's gone too far." "The vitamins," she made me switch them. She said it was just some harmless herbs to help with your anxiety. My hands clenched into fists. "You knew what they were." Tears streamed down Diana's face. "She had dirt on me. I've been skimming pills from the pharmacy, just anxiety meds for myself, nothing serious, but she found out somehow and threatened to report me unless I helped her." I pulled out my phone to record, but Diana grabbed my wrist. "No recordings. I'll deny everything if you try to use this against me. I wanted you to know I'm sorry, and to warn you, she's not done." "What do you mean she's not done?" Diana glanced around nervously. "She's been stealing your mail. She has copies of all your adoption paperwork. She knows the agency you're using, who your caseworker is everything." My blood ran cold. We had been wondering why some of our mail seemed to vanish. Diana started to leave, but I grabbed her arm. "You have to tell someone, the police, the agency, anyone." She pulled away. "I can't. I'll lose my job. I have kids, too." She scurried away, leaving me alone on the park bench. That evening, my husband installed security cameras all around our house. We changed every lock and had our mail forwarded to a P.O. box. It felt like we were fortifying our home for a war. Vanessa's next attack came at Thanksgiving dinner. The whole family was at my mother-in-law's, and the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Vanessa arrived late, making a grand entrance with her 4 children dressed in matching outfits. Throughout the meal, she made snide remarks about people who can't let go of the past and the importance of mental health awareness. Michael's jaw tightened with each jab, but he held his peace. As we were clearing dessert plates, Vanessa stood up and clinked her wine glass. "I have an announcement to make." The room fell silent. Vanessa's hand went to her stomach in that familiar gesture I had used so many times. "We're expecting again, and I've already picked out the perfect name." My mother-in-law gasped in delight. "Oh, Vanessa, that's wonderful." "Yes," Vanessa said, her eyes locked on mine. "If it's a girl, we're naming her Margaret, after Clara's dear departed mother." The room started to spin. My mother had died only 6 months ago. Her name was the last sacred thing I had left. I stood up so fast my chair fell over backward. "You wouldn't dare," I whispered, my voice trembling. Vanessa's smile was pure venom. "Why not? It's such a lovely name, and someone ought to use it since you clearly can't." Michael was on his feet now, too. "That's enough, Vanessa. You've crossed every single line." "Have I?" Vanessa shrieked. "She's the one who broke into my computer. She's the one spreading lies about me. I'm just trying to honor family traditions by stealing the names of dead babies." The room erupted into chaos. My father-in-law started yelling about keeping the peace. Vanessa's husband looked completely lost, asking what was going on. The children started to cry. In the midst of the turmoil, Vanessa grabbed her phone and started a live broadcast to her mommy blog followers. "You can all see how I'm being attacked in my own family," she sobbed to the camera. "All because I want to honor my sister-in-law's mother." Michael took my hand. "We're leaving." As we walked to the door, Vanessa called out, "Oh, and Clara, you might want to check with the adoption agency. I hear they received some very interesting information about your mental health history." We drove home in silence, both of us too consumed with rage to speak. When we got home, there was a message from our adoption caseworker on the answering machine, asking us to call her back immediately. My hands shook as I dialed the number. The caseworker's voice was carefully neutral as she explained they had received documents showing I had been institutionalized for psychiatric disorders on multiple occasions. "That's not true," I said, my voice breaking. "I've never been hospitalized for anything but my miscarriages." "I understand," she said, "but we are required to investigate these claims. Can you provide us with your complete medical history?" After I hung up, my husband found me crumpled on our bedroom floor, sobbing. He just held me as I cried, whispering promises that we would fight this, that Vanessa would not win. The next day, we went to the hospital to get my records. The administrator pulled up my file and frowned. "This is odd. There are entries in here I don't recognize." My heart sank as she turned the screen towards us. Someone had digitally inserted fake psychiatric admissions into my electronic health records, complete with diagnoses of delusional disorder and pathological lying. "This is fraud," the administrator said grimly. "We'll have to launch a full investigation into how someone accessed our system." It took 2 weeks to get the fraudulent entries removed and officially flagged. During that time, Vanessa ramped up her campaign. She created fake social media profiles in my name, posting unhinged rants about wanting to kidnap other people's children. She sent anonymous tips to my employer about my mental instability. My husband started recording everything. He bought a tiny camera he could wear on his shirt to document every interaction with his family. His mother called him paranoid, but he didn't care. The breakthrough came from the most unexpected source. Vanessa's oldest daughter, Leah, now 8 years old, called our house one evening when her parents were out. "Aunt Clara," she said in a tiny voice, "I have to tell you something. Mommy makes us lie about you." Michael immediately hit record as Leah explained how her mother coached her and her brothers to tell people that I was mean to them, that I scared them, and that I said bad things about their family. "She practices with us," Leah whispered. "She makes us say the lies over and over until we get them right. I don't want to do it anymore. You've never been mean to us." We saved the recording, adding it to our growing mountain of evidence. But Vanessa must have found out about Leah's call, because the very next day she posted about how I was now manipulating innocent children and turning them against their own mother. Her followers were incensed, leaving death threats on my social media profiles. Someone doxed my work address, and protesters showed up outside my office with signs accusing me of being a baby killer and a child predator. My boss called me into his office. "I know this is personal," he said, "but it's affecting the company. Perhaps you should take some time off until this all blows over." I was effectively suspended from my job. Vanessa had managed to poison my reputation, my job, and my adoption prospects, but she still wasn't finished. 2 weeks later was my husband's grandmother's 90th birthday. We debated not going, but his grandmother had always been kind to me, and I didn't want to disappoint her. The party was at a restaurant. We figured neutral territory would be safer. Vanessa arrived late, of course, ensuring all eyes were on her. She made a show of air-kissing relatives and gushing about her pregnancy, which was now very visible. During the cake cutting, I excused myself to go to the restroom. Vanessa followed me in, checking under the stalls to make sure we were alone before turning to face me. "You should just give up," she said casually, applying lipstick in the mirror. "You're never going to be a mother. The adoption agency already denied your application, by the way. Oh, didn't you know? I have a friend who works there." I stayed silent, my hand protectively over the tiny camera on Michael's shirt, which I was now wearing. Vanessa continued, mistaking my silence for defeat. It was all so easy, really. Diana at the pharmacy, my friend at the hospital who helped with your medical records, the social worker who owed me a favor. You never stood a chance. Why? I finally asked. What did I ever do to you to deserve this? Vanessa's reflection smiled coldly at me. You married him. You took my brother from me. He was supposed to always put me first. And then you came along with your sob story about fertility. Suddenly he cared more about your problems than about me. So you killed my babies. Vanessa laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. I didn't kill anything. You did that all on your own. I just helped nature along with the last one. Consider it a favor. You're clearly not meant to be a mother. I walked out of that bathroom without another word, my heart pounding. We finally had her confession on camera. But when we checked the footage that night, our hearts sank. The camera's battery had inexplicably died the moment Vanessa followed me into the restroom. We had nothing. Later that week, Vanessa's husband called Michael and asked to meet alone. We expected threats, but instead he looked exhausted and defeated. I found her journal, he said, sliding a leather-bound notebook across the table. I wasn't snooping. It fell out of her purse. I think you need to see this. Vanessa's journal was a horrifying chronicle of her malice. Page after page detailed her plots against me, her glee at each of my miscarriages, and her collaborations with Diana and others to ruin my life. But the most disturbing parts were the entries about other family members she'd targeted over the years. She'd poisoned her own mother-in-law's cat when the woman suggested she wait to have children. She had ruined her cousin's wedding by sleeping with the groom the night before. She had got her college roommate expelled by planting drugs in their dorm room. I don't know who I married, Vanessa's husband said, his voice cracking. The kids, I'm filing for divorce. I'll testify about what I found if you need me to. We photocopied every single page of that journal before giving it back. We finally had concrete proof, but Vanessa struck first. The next morning, the police were at our door with a search warrant. An anonymous tip claimed we were dealing drugs out of our house. Michael and I stood numbly in our living room as officers tore apart our carefully rebuilt lives. They found nothing, of course, but the damage was done. Our neighbors watched from their windows as police cars lined our quiet street. After the police left, we found a note slipped under our door in Vanessa's handwriting. Stop now, or next time they'll find something. That night, Michael and I made a decision. We were going to take everything we had and force the family to confront the truth about Vanessa, once and for all. We called a family meeting at my mother-in-law's house, saying we had vital news to share. Vanessa walked in looking smug, probably expecting us to announce our surrender. Instead, my husband connected his laptop to the television and began to present the evidence. The journal entries, the photos from her computer, a sworn statement from her husband, even Leia's recorded confession about being forced to lie. The room grew deathly quiet as the evidence mounted. Vanessa's expression shifted from arrogance to terror to pure, unadulterated rage. My mother-in-law gasped when we displayed the journal entry about poisoning her cat. Mittens, he didn't just die, she whispered. Vanessa leaped to her feet. This is all fake. They're trying to frame me because they're jealous of my perfect family. But then her husband stood up. It's true, all of it. I've seen the original journal. Vanessa, you need help. The dam broke. Other family members started sharing their own stories of Vanessa's cruelty, and a clear pattern of her behavior emerged over the years. Vanessa's mask finally shattered completely. She screamed at everyone, calling them liars and traitors. She grabbed a vase and hurled it against the wall, sending shards of glass flying across the room. "You want to destroy me," she shrieked, pointing at me. "You barren witch, you'll never have what I have, never." Her oldest son, Ethan, started to cry. "Mom, stop, you're scaring us." But Vanessa was beyond reason. She lunged at me, and this time I didn't back down. It took both my husband and hers to pull us apart as she clawed at my face, screaming obscenities. "I should have used something stronger in those vitamins," she howled. "I should have made sure you could never even try again." The room went utterly still. Vanessa seemed to realize what she had just confessed. My father-in-law's voice was ice cold. "Get out of my house and don't ever come back." Vanessa looked around the room at her family, her children, her husband. They all stared back at her with a mixture of fear and disgust. "Fine," she snarled, "but I'm taking my children." "No," her husband said firmly. "You're not. Kids, come here." All 4 children, even baby Serafina in Leia's arms, ran to their father. Vanessa stood alone in the middle of the room. She left without another word, slamming the door behind her, the consequences of her actions finally crashing down. The family sat in stunned silence for a long moment before my mother-in-law began to weep. "I'm so sorry," she wailed, reaching for my hand. "I should have believed you. All those babies, I'm so sorry." The fallout was swift and decisive. Diana, terrified of losing her pharmacy license, gave a full confession about switching my vitamins, providing receipts and text messages from Vanessa as proof. Vanessa's husband filed for emergency custody and a restraining order, using her journal as evidence of her being an unfit mother. He also discovered searches on her computer for ways to induce miscarriage that dated back years. Vanessa's mommy blog imploded after an anonymous user posted excerpts from her journal for all her followers to see. The woman who had built an empire on being the perfect mother was exposed as a calculating sociopath who poisoned relatives and terminated pregnancies. Within days, she had lost everything: her husband, her children, her family, and her online adulation. The adoption agency called to apologize profusely and reactivate our application, noting that the ordeal with the false accusations would actually strengthen our case by demonstrating our resilience in the face of adversity. 3 months later, my husband and I stood in a courtroom, finalizing the adoption of newborn twins. We named them Amelia and Ethan, reclaiming the names that Vanessa had so cruelly taken from us. As we signed the papers, I thought about the long, torturous road that had led us here. Vanessa was facing criminal charges for the vitamin tampering, though her lawyer was pushing for a plea deal involving mental health treatment instead of prison. Her children were thriving with their father, finally free from her toxic influence. Leia had started calling me Aunt Clara again and asked if she could help babysit the twins when they were older. "I want to be a good big cousin," she'd explained, "not like my mom was a sister." As we drove home with our babies securely in their car seats, my husband reached over and squeezed my hand. We had survived Vanessa's campaign of terror and come out stronger. The twins gurgled happily, and I smiled through my tears. Vanessa had tried to steal everything from me, but in the end, the only person she had truly stolen from was herself. I had my family, my children, and my life back, and Vanessa had exactly what she had always given to others: the consequences of her own cruelty. The adoption ceremony at the courthouse wrapped up around noon. By 12:30, Vanessa was already making trouble. My husband spotted her first, standing across the street from the courthouse steps as we were taking pictures with Amelia and Ethan. She was wearing oversized sunglasses and a baseball cap, but her rigid posture gave her away. "Don't look," he murmured, shifting his body to block her view of the twins. The photographer, sensing our discomfort, suggested we move to the courthouse garden for more photos. As we walked away, I heard the sound of hurried footsteps on the pavement behind us. Vanessa was crossing the street. "Those should have been my names to give," she yelled, her voice raw. Courthouse security intercepted her before she could get any closer. We watched as they escorted her away, still screaming about her rights as an aunt. The twins slept through the entire commotion, blissfully unaware of the drama surrounding their very first official day as part of our family. That afternoon, we learned Vanessa had been even busier than we thought. Our social media announcement about the adoption, which my mother-in-law had shared with our permission, had been screenshotted and posted on a new blog Vanessa had created, complete with a deranged commentary about baby snatchers and name thieves. Diana sent me a warning text. Vanessa had shown up at the pharmacy that morning, asking strange questions about infant medications and common allergies. Diana refused to give her any information and notified her manager, but the incident left us all on edge. That night, we installed a video doorbell. Michael also switched our pediatrician to an office across town, just to be safe. The twins had their first checkup the following week, and we were taking no chances. Vanessa's now ex-husband called the next day with more disturbing news. She had broken into his house while the kids were at school, stealing photo albums and baby keepsakes. She'd also left a note on the counter demanding visitation rights. "The restraining order covers the children," he assured us, "but she's getting desperate. She's been bouncing between friends' houses, feeding them all some story about how we've all turned against her for no reason." 3 days later, Vanessa showed up at my husband's office. She had waited in the parking garage and confronted him as he walked to his car. Michael immediately started recording on his phone. "You poisoned everyone against me," she hissed, blocking his path. "Even my own children won't speak to me." My husband tried to step around her, but she moved with him. "Vanessa, you need to leave. You're violating the restraining order." "That piece of paper means nothing. You're my brother. You're supposed to protect me, not destroy me." "You destroyed yourself," he said quietly. Vanessa's face contorted with rage. She snatched his phone and smashed it against the concrete wall. It shattered on impact. Then she ran to her car and sped off before security could arrive. The broken phone meant we lost that specific video, but the parking garage's security cameras captured the entire incident. My husband filed another police report, and a warrant was issued for Vanessa's arrest. She managed to evade the police for a week. During that time, she created dozens of new fake social media profiles, using them to harass us and our employers. She accused us of kidnapping her children, destroying her marriage, and planting evidence against her. One profile was particularly sickening. It featured the photos of Amelia and Ethan from the courthouse, but they had been digitally altered to show Vanessa holding them. The captions read, "My beautiful twins who were stolen from me." Several of her former blog followers, the ones who remained loyal despite everything, shared the posts. My boss called me back into his office. "I know this isn't your fault," he said, sliding a printed screenshot across his desk. "But human resources is getting concerned. These accusations of kidnapping, even though they're baseless, they're creating a hostile work environment." I stared at the doctored photo of Vanessa with our babies. "What are you saying? Take an extended leave of absence, paid. Let this situation resolve itself and then we'll reassess." I cleared out my desk that afternoon, trying my best not to cry. Vanessa had now cost me my active career on top of everything else. That night, Leia called again. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Aunt Clara, Mom's here. She's outside Dad's house. She keeps texting me to let her in." My husband immediately called his brother-in-law while I stayed on the phone with Leia. We could hear Vanessa pounding on the front door, screaming for her children. "She says she has new vitamins for the baby," Leia murmured, terrified. "Special ones to make her smart like her." My blood ran cold. "Leia, do not open that door. Stay away from the windows." The police arrived within minutes. We listened on the phone as they took a resisting Vanessa into custody. She screamed the whole time about her rights as a mother, how we had all conspired against her, and how she was just trying to give her niece some vitamins. They found a bottle of unlabeled pills in her purse. Vanessa spent 2 nights in jail before being released on bail. Her attorney successfully argued that she was in the midst of a mental health crisis and needed treatment, not incarceration. The judge granted bail, but with strict conditions. She had to wear an ankle monitor and was forbidden from contacting any family members. The pills later tested positive for a mild sedative, not immediately lethal but completely inappropriate for an infant. It was enough to add attempted child endangerment to her list of charges. The few old friends Vanessa had left began to distance themselves as the truth became undeniable. One of them, a woman named Nora who had been letting Vanessa stay with her, called me directly. "I'm so sorry," Nora said. "I believed her stories about you." But then I caught her in my medicine cabinet at 3 in the morning, going through my prescriptions. When I confronted her, she claimed she was just looking for aspirin. "But you don't believe her," I finished. "No, and there's more. She's been using my computer to create those fake profiles. I have screenshots of everything." Nora provided us with dozens of screenshots detailing Vanessa's online activities, creating fake personas, doctoring photos, and organizing harassment campaigns. It was all there, documented, time-stamped, and irrefutable. We added it to our evidence file, which was now large enough to fill a banker's box. My husband organized everything chronologically, preparing for the eventual criminal trial. In the meantime, we focused on our new life with the twins. They were thriving, gaining weight, and starting to smile. Amelia had my husband's thoughtful eyes, while Ethan had my stubborn chin. Every little milestone felt like a victory Vanessa couldn't touch. The adoption agency called to schedule a follow-up visit. The social worker who came was the same one who had investigated Vanessa's false claims. Her face broke into a wide smile when she saw how well the twins were doing. "I want to apologize again for that whole investigation," she said, watching Amelia grasp my finger with her tiny hand. "It's abundantly clear now that those complaints were malicious." "We understand you had to follow protocol," my husband said. "Yes, but I wanted you to know we've flagged Vanessa's name in our system. If she ever tries to adopt or interfere with another adoption, we'll know immediately." It was a small comfort, but we took whatever protection we could get. Vanessa's next move came via her lawyer. She was suing for grandparental rights, claiming we were alienating her from her rightful bond with the twins. The lawsuit was frivolous. She wasn't their biological grandmother and had no legal standing. Still, we had to respond. Our lawyer actually laughed as he read the filing. "She's grasping at straws." No judge will even entertain this. He was right. The lawsuit was dismissed within a week. But Vanessa didn't stop. She started showing up at places she knew we frequented: the grocery store, the park, the pediatrician's office. She always stayed just far enough away to technically not violate the restraining order's distance clause, but close enough to make her presence known. One afternoon at the park, she sat on a bench 50 feet away and just stared at us for a solid hour. Other parents noticed and moved their children away from her. When one concerned mother asked if we knew her, I simply said, "We have a restraining order against her." The word spread through the playground like wildfire. Vanessa must have realized her intimidation tactics weren't working, because she switched strategies. She began sending letters to our house through her lawyer, claiming she wanted to reconcile. Each letter was filled with veiled threats wrapped in the language of forgiveness and family unity. "I forgive you for turning my family against me," one letter read. "I'm willing to move past the lies you've spread if you'll just let me be part of the twins' lives. They need their aunt. Don't make me prove how much they need me." We forwarded every letter to our lawyer and the police. The detective on her case told us they were building a strong harassment case on top of the other charges. Diana reached out one more time, this time with more information. "Vanessa's been texting me from different numbers," she wrote, "offering me money to get information on your prescriptions. I've blocked every number, but they keep coming." She sent us the screenshots. Vanessa was promising increasingly large sums of money that we knew she didn't have, as her ex-husband had frozen their joint assets during the divorce. The divorce proceedings were moving swiftly. Her husband had been granted full custody, with Vanessa allowed only supervised visits at a court-appointed facility. "She's only come once," he told us. "She spent the whole time telling the kids everyone was lying about her." "She hasn't been back since. The kids are in therapy," he explained over a coffee meeting. "Leia especially. She feels guilty for telling you about the lies. I keep telling her she did the right thing." We told him we would be happy to talk to Leia any time she needed reassurance. The poor girl had been shouldering the weight of her mother's manipulations for years. Vanessa's biggest mistake yet happened 2 months after the adoption. Using her maiden name and somehow slipping through a background check before her charges were fully processed, she managed to get a job at a daycare center in the next town over. We only found out because another mother there recognized her from the mommy blog drama and alerted the daycare administration. They fired her immediately and reported the incident to Child Protective Services. This violation, working with children while under investigation for child endangerment, added yet another charge to her growing list. Her lawyer dropped her as a client, citing irreconcilable differences. At her next hearing, Vanessa represented herself. She showed up in an ill-fitting suit, her hair unkempt and dark circles under her eyes. She launched into a 20-minute tirade about conspiracies and family betrayal before the judge cut her off. "Ms. Vanessa," the judge said sternly, "you are in desperate need of proper legal counsel. I am appointing you a public defender." "I don't need help," Vanessa insisted. "I just need people to listen to the truth." "The truth according to whom?" the judge asked. "According to me, I'm the victim here." The judge ordered a psychiatric evaluation and scheduled another hearing. Vanessa stormed out of the courtroom, muttering about injustice. In the parking lot, she confronted us again. This time, Michael and I were ready. We both had our phones out and recording as she approached. "Enjoy them while you can," she snarled, gesturing to the twins in their car seats. "You think you've won, but I know things. I know what formula you buy, what brand of diapers you use where you take them for their walks." "Vanessa, you're being recorded," my husband said calmly, "and you're violating the restraining order." She let out a wild, cackling laugh. "Restraining order? You mean that joke of a paper? I've violated it a dozen times. It's easy to follow you when you're so predictable." "Thank you for that confession," I said, holding up my phone. Her face went white as she realized what she'd done. She turned and ran for her car, but court security was already heading toward her. They detained her until the police arrived. This time, bail was revoked. Vanessa would wait for her trial in jail. The judge cited her on-camera confession to multiple restraining order violations and the escalating pattern of her behavior as reasons for her detainment. A week after Vanessa's arrest, her ex-husband brought the kids over to our house. It was the first time they had seen the twins in person. Leia was gentle and sweet with them, while Ethan and the other kids were curious but cautious. "Mom's in jail?" little Ethan asked his dad. "Yes, buddy, she made some very bad choices." "Is it our fault?" Amelia, her 7-year-old face creased with worry, asked. "No, sweetheart. Nothing your mom did is your fault. She's sick in her head and she needs to get help." The children seemed to accept that explanation. They played with the twins' toys and helped us give them their bottles. It was a glimpse of what family gatherings could have been if not for Vanessa's all-consuming jealousy. My mother-in-law came over later that week. She looked like she had aged 10 years in the past few months, the stress of Vanessa's actions weighing heavily on her. "I failed her somehow," she murmured, watching the twins sleep. "I must have. Normal people don't do the things she did." "Mental illness doesn't mean you failed as a parent," my husband told her gently. "Vanessa made choices, terrible ones. That's on her, not on you." We spent the afternoon looking through old photo albums at pictures of Vanessa as a smiling, seemingly normal child. My mother-in-law pointed out moments that, in hindsight, she now saw as red flags. Vanessa's explosive anger after losing a board game, her manipulation of younger cousins, the mysterious illness of a classmate who had challenged her for class president. "I always made excuses for her," my mother-in-law confessed. "I said she was competitive, driven. I never wanted to see what was really there." The criminal trial was set for 6 months out. Vanessa's public defender was attempting to build an insanity defense, but the prosecutor was confident. Diana's testimony, the journal entries, and Vanessa's own recorded confessions all painted an undeniable picture. We settled into our new normal. We took the twins to the park without looking over our shoulders. We went to doctor's appointments without fear of being followed. Vanessa's name was rarely brought up at family dinners. Every day the twins grew and their little personalities blossomed. Amelia was the serious one, studying everything with intense focus. Ethan was all smiles and giggles, charming everyone he met. They were perfect, they were ours, and Vanessa couldn't get to them from behind bars. We received a letter from the daycare center where Vanessa had briefly worked. As a result of what happened, they were implementing new, more thorough background check procedures. They even offered us free childcare if we ever needed it as an apology for the security lapse. We politely declined. When we needed help, the twins would stay with family or trusted friends. Trust was something we were relearning, one day at a time. Diana sent one last text message. I'm moving. New job, new state. I need a fresh start where nobody knows what I did. I'm sorry again. Take care of those babies. I didn't reply. Some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt. 5 months into Vanessa's pretrial detention, we received shocking news. She was pregnant. Apparently, she had been seeing someone just before her arrest and was now facing the prospect of giving birth in jail. Her ex-husband was distraught. Those kids don't deserve another sibling born into this mess, he told us. And who knows what she was taking while pregnant? She wasn't stable. The pregnancy added a new layer of complication to the trial. Her lawyer pushed the insanity defense harder, arguing that no rational woman would commit such crimes while pregnant. The prosecutor countered that Vanessa's meticulous planning demonstrated clear premeditation, not madness. We attended every pre-trial hearing, sitting quietly in the back, providing our testimony when required. With each appearance, Vanessa grew larger and more disheveled. She would stare at us with pure hatred, her hands cuffed over her swelling belly. During one hearing, she had an outburst. They stole my life, she screamed, pointing at us. My babies, my family, everything, and now they sit there judging me. The judge ordered her removed from the courtroom. As the bailiffs led her out, she turned back one last time. Amelia and Ethan were supposed to be mine. The courtroom was silent after her outburst. Even her own lawyer looked defeated. A month before the trial was set to begin, Vanessa went into labor. Despite everyone's fears, the baby girl was born healthy. Vanessa named her Clara. My hands shook when I heard the news. Even now, after everything, she was trying to hurt me, using my own name for her child conceived in chaos and born in confinement. Baby Clara was immediately taken into the custody of Child Protective Services. Given her circumstances and the pending charges, Vanessa had no parental rights. The baby was placed in foster care while the state determined a permanent plan. Vanessa's ex-husband considered taking her in, but ultimately decided against it. My kids have been through enough, he said. I can't bring home their half-sister who will be a constant reminder of their mother's breakdown. The trial began on a cold February morning. Amelia and Ethan were 11 months old, just starting to walk and say their first words. We left them with my father-in-law and took our seats in the courtroom. Vanessa was brought in, shackled, her postpartum body swimming in an orange jumpsuit. She had lost weight since the birth, and her face was haggard and pale. She found us in the gallery immediately, her eyes locking onto ours with an unnerving intensity. Diana testified first, calmly detailing how Vanessa had coerced her into switching my vitamins. She broke down during cross-examination, but never wavered in her story. The pharmacy board had already revoked her license. This testimony was part of her own plea deal. Next, Vanessa's ex-husband took the stand, presenting the journal and describing years of manipulative behavior he had previously ignored. He told stories of Vanessa's escalating hostility towards family members, her obsession with control, and her inability to let go of any perceived slight. When it was my turn to testify, I spoke plainly and calmly about the stolen names, the poisoned vitamins, and the systematic destruction of my life. I showed the jury pictures of the twins, healthy and thriving, the very existence Vanessa had tried to prevent. "She wanted me to suffer," I said, meeting Vanessa's gaze. "Because I had something she couldn't control, her brother's love and loyalty." Vanessa's lawyer tried to paint me as a vengeful woman, suggesting I had orchestrated the entire thing to ruin Vanessa's life. But the evidence spoke louder than his theories. The prosecution laid it all out. The emails, the fake social media accounts, the doctored medical records, the harassment campaign. They played the audio recordings of Vanessa's threats and confessions. They showed the jury the bottle of unlabeled pills she had brought to her children's home. Against her lawyer's advice, Vanessa testified in her own defense. She rambled about conspiracies and betrayals, claiming I had been plotting against her since the day I met her brother. She claimed the pills were meant to help me, the names were a coincidence, and everyone else was lying. "I'm a good mother," she insisted, tears streaming down her face. "They took my babies from me because they're jealous of what I had." The prosecutor's cross-examination was brutal. He walked her through every piece of evidence, forcing her to confront her own words and actions. Vanessa's story changed with every question, the contradictions piling up. Finally, he asked, "Did you or did you not tamper with Clara's prenatal vitamins?" Vanessa was silent for a long time. Then in a low voice she said she didn't deserve to be a mother. The courtroom erupted. The judge hammered his gavel for order, and Vanessa's lawyer buried his head in his hands. She had just confessed on the stand. The closing arguments were short. The evidence was overwhelming. The confession was damning. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all charges. Vanessa showed no emotion as the verdict was read. She just stared straight ahead, her face a blank mask. Sentencing was scheduled for the following month. Outside the courthouse, a throng of reporters waited. We pushed past them without a word. There was nothing left to say. Justice had been served, but it brought no joy. A family had been irrevocably broken, children left motherless, and a baby girl named Clara was growing up in the foster care system. The sentencing hearing was a more subdued affair. Vanessa seemed sedated, her movements slow and deliberate. Character witnesses spoke for both sides. Her children did not attend. The judge sentenced her to 15 years in state prison with the possibility of parole after 7. She would serve her time in a facility with a dedicated mental health unit. It was less than the prosecutor wanted, but more than her lawyer had hoped for. As the guards led her away, Vanessa looked back one last time. "Take care of my Clara," she murmured, her voice barely audible. I wasn't sure if she meant me or the baby. Maybe both, maybe neither. We drove home to our twins, who greeted us with squeals and outstretched arms. Amelia had learned to say "mama" while we were gone. Ethan showed off his new skill of stacking 2 blocks on top of each other. That night, after the twins were asleep, my husband and I sat on the back porch. The stars were out, and the air was crisp and clean. We didn't talk about the trial or Vanessa or the years of pain. We just sat together, breathing easily for the first time in a long time. 2 weeks later, we got a call from Child Protective Services. Vanessa's baby, Clara, needed a permanent home. Would we consider adopting her? My husband and I looked at each other, then at our twins playing on the living room floor. Amelia was trying to feed Ethan a toy truck, and he was giggling. They were so happy, so innocent. "We'll think about it," I told the social worker. That night we talked for hours. Could we raise the child of the woman who had tried to destroy us? Could we look at her every day and not see her mother? But could we deny an innocent baby a loving home because of the circumstances of her birth? In the end, love won. 3 months later, baby Clara officially joined our family. We kept her first name but gave her a new middle name, Hope. Vanessa's children were frequent visitors. They adored all 3 of our babies, especially Leia, who took her role as the big cousin very seriously. Their father eventually started dating a kind woman who was wonderful with the children. Healing was a slow but steady process. My mother-in-law found her peace in being a doting grandmother. She lavished affection on all the children equally, making up for lost time. She never spoke of Vanessa unless asked directly, and even then her answer was always brief. "She's getting the help she needs," was all she would say. "That's what matters now." I returned to work when the twins were 2. My boss welcomed me back with a promotion, acknowledging how well I had handled an impossible situation. My coworkers threw me a small welcome-back party and decorated my desk with baby pictures. Life settled into a new normal. 3 kids under 3 was a beautiful kind of chaos. Clara grew up looking nothing like her biological mother, all bright smiles and a sweet, gentle disposition. The twins accepted her as their sister without question. As they got older, we told them the truth in age-appropriate ways, about complicated families, about mental illness, about choosing love over hate, about how sometimes the people who are supposed to love you most just can't, but that doesn't make you unlovable. Diana wrote once, a long, apologetic letter detailing her new life. She was in therapy, had a new job at a hospital, and was trying to atone for her choices. I wrote back one time and wished her well. Some forgiveness takes distance. Vanessa's ex-husband remarried when his youngest was 10. It was a small, happy wedding. All 4 of his children were in the wedding party, their faces beaming. They had found stability again. We got occasional updates on Vanessa from her lawyer. She took her medication, attended therapy, and worked in the prison library. She found religion, lost it, and found it again. She wrote letters to her children that her ex-husband kept in a box, unopened, for them to decide if they wanted to read when they were older. She never wrote to us. For that, we were grateful. We celebrated the twins' 5th birthday with a huge, noisy party in our backyard. All the cousins came, along with school friends and neighbors. Leia, now a teenager, helped me organize the games. Vanessa's other children sang happy birthday with genuine joy. Clara, now 3, tried to blow out her siblings' candles for them. Amelia gently stopped her, and Ethan laughed. They were endlessly patient, protective, and loving with their younger sister. My husband's grandmother, now 95, sat in her wheelchair, smiling. She had lived to see her family heal from the wounds Vanessa had inflicted. She held little Clara on her lap and whispered stories about the family's history, the good parts. That night, after the cake and presents and overstimulation had worn off, we tucked 3 exhausted children into bed. Amelia begged for one more story. Ethan demanded extra cuddles. Clara needed her special blanket arranged just so. As I closed Clara's door, I thought of Vanessa in her prison cell. Did she ever think of the children she had lost, through biology and through her own actions? Did she regret the path she had chosen? Did she ever truly take responsibility? I would never know. And that was okay. She was on her own journey now. My husband found me in the hallway and pulled me into a hug. We had survived the unimaginable and built something beautiful from the wreckage. Our children were happy, healthy, and so loved. That was all that mattered. The next morning brought the usual chaos: spilled cereal, a missing shoe, a brief argument over a toy. It was the beautiful chaos of a normal family life. Amelia helped Clara find her favorite dress, while Ethan tried to feed the dog his breakfast. They were good, kind kids, in spite of, or perhaps because of, their origin story. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Leia. "Can I babysit this weekend? I want to practice for when I have my own kids someday." I smiled and typed back, "Yes." The cycle of family was continuing, healthier this time, built on truth and choice instead of secrets and pain. Vanessa had tried to destroy us with her jealousy and hate, but in her wake, she had inadvertently created a bigger, stronger family, bound together by love and resilience. Her biological children were thriving without her poison. Her baby was growing up surrounded by the love she had tried to deny others. And we had everything she had ever wanted, not because we had stolen it, but because we had earned it, through patience, perseverance, and the courage to love even when it hurt. The twins started kindergarten that fall. Amelia had her supplies packed a week in advance, while Ethan immediately charmed his teacher. Clara watched them go with tears in her eyes, already counting down the days until she could join them. We were just 3 parents at a bus stop, waving goodbye. My husband squeezed my hand as the bus pulled away. We had made it. Through all of it, we had made it. That afternoon, while Clara was napping, I finally opened the memory box I kept in the back of our closet. Inside were the ultrasound photos of our lost babies, the ones whose names Vanessa had stolen. I looked at each one, acknowledging the hope and the heartbreak they represented. Then I added a stack of new photos, Amelia, Ethan, and Clara laughing and playing together. Life from loss, joy from sorrow. A family built from the ashes of another's destruction. I closed the box and put it away. The past was honored, but it wasn't a place to live. The present was too full of noise and love and life to waste time wondering about what might have been. Downstairs, Clara was awake, calling for a snack. I went down to meet her, ready for whatever came next. We had survived Vanessa's worst. Everything else was just life.